morning, you guys. I hope you're ready for Cesar's go home tomorrow. He is a handful, so you guys have some work to do. He's doing really well for the most part, just throwing me a couple punches here and there, but I wanted to do a video entirely on e-collar training today, just to help you grasp some of these concepts and be more prepared for his go home tomorrow. Cesar, come. So I've got that speaker box paired up. Come. Here. Here. Sit. And that way you can hear the e-collar work that I'm doing. And then I'm going to talk to you about his numbers and what I'm seeing and all that kind of stuff. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be layering every single command over the e-collar. So this is actually a form of communication, not a correction. I'm not trying to correct him into compliance. I'm just trying to have a real strong level of communication, and this touch layered with my voice is going to be like an extension of myself to say here, sit, place, come, all that stuff. So that's kind of the idea behind it. Right now the e-collar represents me, so when I say things, the e-collar turns on. I'm his primary handler, so when he comes home, the e-collar won't have any relation towards you. So it's going to be very imperative that you layer the commands for the first couple weeks that he's home. That way he starts to associate it with you like he associates it with me. So you're going to be doing layering. And there's going to be, the e-collar is going to turn on when you say the word. That's the layer. But it's not going to turn off until you get compliance. So right there, I was just trying to get him into a here position, and he was trying to kind of blow me off a little bit. So what I made sure to do was continuously hold my e-collar button on until I got that level of compliance. So this is what you're going to see in this video. I'm just going to go out and do a couple examples and then explain what I was doing. Let's go. Good. Keep my e-collar on until I see that he has grouped up with me again. Let's go. Place. So this place. So I'm not gonna let this go until his feet get on. There you go. Good. Sit. Good. So I'm gonna go through all the commands real quick. We've got Cesar come. So when I say that, what I want from the dog is for him to come all the way to me and use to tell him to sit. So Cesar come is not, there shouldn't be any movement on the handler's part. In other words, you shouldn't be, walking the other direction while he follows you. You should be stopping, getting the dog's commitment from you with a sit. So eventually we can fade that level of commitment, but because he struggled coming when called, it's really important that every time you say Cesar come, that you get the commitment, right? So that's Cesar come. Let's go. That's the movement command. That's what I was just doing. I didn't make him stop and sit. I just said let's go and kept turning him. So let's go is like follow me this way. It's also part of my release command. So I'm going to say let's go to get him off the place board. So then we have here, which is my version of healing. Here means heel. You can say heel if you want. If that's something you've already taught him, I don't really care. I don't really think the dog notices the difference all that much. It's just my habit. Sit, down, place. Place means stay. He shouldn't get off of this thing until you've released him. And then we have out, which is drop it from your mouth. Leave it, which is leave it alone. I can tell him crate. And then when I want to release him to be free, I'll say, there's two different commands actually. Go potty, which that's like obvious. And then, if he's already pottied and I'm not asking that of him, I'll say go ahead. And that also means release. Sit. So it's kind of like my free dog command. Sit. stop with the e-collar until he starts to sit. Sit. That's a great example of what I'm trying to teach you with the e-collar. So I said sit. He looked at me like, fuck you. Excuse my language, but that's why would I sit? I'm standing right here. I know the word really well. I completely understand it. I don't want to. So I just kept using my e-collar pressure until he sat or started to sit. So you're going to see a lot more of that, but I want to go over two things that I see that people do wrong with the e-collar. One is they'll tap it once and that's it. So in that situation, they'll say sit, they'll tap it once, and then they'll go, he didn't sit, and they'll give up. They won't follow through. So that's not how I taught him. That the e-collar has been taught that this form of pressure is going to stay on until I get a form of compliance. So if we start just doing single taps and we don't get the follow through by continuously holding our e-collar down until we get the compliance, then he's going to learn to blow through the tool. So it's important that your timing is somewhat compared to mine, and you're not just going tap and done, and that you're actually holding it down until you get the compliance. Sit. The other thing that I see that people do wrong, like let's say Cesar's way out in the field, and you say, Cesar, come. Don't hold the button down until he gets all the way to you. You're just waiting for compliance. So I'm going to hopefully give you an example of that in the yard. But what I really just need to see is that he turns towards you and starts heading your way, and then the e-collar will turn off. I don't want to add pressure the whole way he comes to me. That might push him away from me. So it's just until you see that compliance, that commitment to listening. And then if he blows you off anywhere in between, you'll add the e-collar again. So it's pressure release, pressure release, pressure release. Pressure doesn't turn on until you commit, but it will turn off the moment you do commit. You blow me off, it turns back on again. So I'm going to go, it's hard to see. This is the only option I have for my camera though. I'm going to go out in my yard and see if I can't practice some more productive recalls so you can see what I mean by that. And I just want to address this real quick. He has an erection. He's whining. Some people might go, oh, this poor guy doesn't really want to be doing this. Of course he doesn't. He doesn't like to be told what to do, as you guys have found out, right? There's tons of smells in the yard of dogs, which he's obsessed with, so he'd rather be doing that than complying to what I'm asking. And he doesn't like to relax on command. This is a dog that's been very hard to teach how to relax. I would encourage you highly to put great emphasis in the relaxation part of the training when he comes home, because it's very important that you teach dogs how to be calm. And since he's so composed and stoic, it appears like he's calm, but when you start to ask him to relax, nope, sit. But when you start to ask him to relax, then you start to get like whining, pushiness, breaking on the place, you know, that kind of stuff. So this to me isn't anything but protest. This isn't what I want to be doing. Don't hold me to this standard. And I say, tough titties, this is what I need from you in this moment, and it's not all about what Cesar wants. Sometimes it's about holding him to expectations that you want, so that he can be the best version of himself. And that way you can have control over him, like say for instance when a guest comes over. If you don't start practicing relaxation in place with him before the guest comes over, you're going to have a really hard time controlling him when that guest comes over. So that's one reason why. There's 100 other reasons. It's beneficial for him. That's the main one. It's more, it will teach him how to be less stressed. But I think the big thing is, and especially with our conversation with Dave, is, you know, being preoccupied with whether or not he wants to do it. And sometimes dogs, you know, I don't want to have to like force them into it, but sometimes dogs need, there needs to be a level of expectation where this is just the norm, and I need you to do this because you're my pet, not, oh, well, if he doesn't want to do it, then I won't make him, you know, or I won't ask that of him. You know, we have to change our mindset and say, buddy, sometimes you just need to sit here and relax. We're going to go work out in the yard here in a second. Please wait patiently for me instead of being so pushy and whiny. So I'm going to go out and see if I can get some recalls. Let's go. Here. So, by the way, right now I'm on a 12. And that was a boost, so that was a 17. Let's go. Go ahead. So again, go ahead means go be free. This speaker box even further away because I feel like I'm trying to talk over it and I want you to be able to hear well. So hopefully you'll still be able to hear the speaker, but you'll be able to hear me better. Let's go. Good. Good job, buddy. Let's go. Go ahead. Go ahead, buddy. So this would be good because you'll be able to have a better, hopefully a better visual of him when I recall him. I really like to call him off smells a lot because that's when he gets the most fixated, believe it or not, is when he's smelling something. Cesar, come. Cesar, come. So I'm not getting compliance, so I'm going to start going up on my e-collar here. Come. Cesar, come. Come on. Good boy. Good. So that was a 35 to sit and a 40 to come when called. That's a pretty high number, right? And that's one of the reasons why I want to make this video for you, because once you took that leash off of him, his numbers went from 4 to 75 really quickly. And this is because he's been able to blow off commands whenever he feels like it, and he's stoic, he's high defense, so he's very strong in his mind and body, and he's stubborn as all get out. So this is going to be more challenging for you because his numbers aren't low, they're all over the place. They go from 4 to 75 at any given time. Let's go. Good. So I'm actually all the way back down to a 10 now. Let's go. Usually after they sit next to me or place for a little bit, their numbers will go back down. And since I'm going to accidentally shock him. Cesar, come. So I'm on a 10. I'm going to start going up. Go to my boost button now. Cesar, come. Good boy. So when you hear that different sound on the speaker box, place. Sit. Sit. When you see that hear that different sound that you hear on the speaker box, how that sound changes, that means I'm up into the 30s. If the sound changes again to an even more unknown noise, that means I'm in the 70s. So the speaker box changes as you go up. But the e-collar is the barometer for the brain. I love the e-collar because it tells you so much about how a dog feels, their intensity, how much adrenaline is in their system. It can tell me a lot about a relationship. So if I work a dog on a 4 all the time and the owner works it on a 20 all the time, that's a relationship thing. The dog can't listen at a low number because the human makes them feel too overwhelmed and excited all the time. So they're less susceptible to listening and staying composed. But it's a barometer for the brain. So this is a riding scale. You're not going to have a couple numbers. This is actually going to be determined by his brain. This is the hard part of my e-collar work. Now I'm doing all of this one-handed in my pocket. I am experienced enough now that that's something that comes easy to me. Most people have to do this. And the dial is a bitch. So when he first comes home, this is going to be really hard for you. It's going to take you some time to get used to it. Give yourself that time, because once you get used to it and he gets more compliant, it's going to come together. But at first, you're going to probably want him on a long line because you don't want this guy blowing off commands. And the longer it takes for you to get to the number that works, the higher his number is going to go before he'll listen. So the leash is going to be helpful while you're learning, and it's going to prevent him from escalating or doing old behaviors that are unwanted. But what happened just there, I mean, he was staring at me and he wouldn't come. So he's basically like, fuck you, I'm not coming, right? And this is kind of what I have seen in him since the midweek, is this very, like, I don't know if you got the memo, but I do what I want when I want. That's kind of the feeling he's given me this week. So I've gotten a lot more fluctuation in my e-collar as a result, because his intensity gets really, really high when his desire overrides what I'm asking of him. But what you'll notice is that the dog doesn't look the same. The dog doesn't look any different. It looks exactly the same as when I'm on a 4 versus the 40 that I had to get to recall him. So it's not that I'm going up so high that I'm shocking him. I'm actually just going up high enough so that he can feel it and that number resonates with his brain. So when they're building adrenaline, when they get the zoomies, when they're playing fetch, when they're going hiking, these are all situations in which numbers are normally going to rise because there's going to be a natural production of adrenaline. And there's going to be lots of exciting things going on. So their numbers get higher the more stimulating the environment and the more adrenaline's in their system. So it's going to tell you a lot about his intensity, how much adrenaline he has, how he feels about that dog. So if he runs at a dog and you call him off of it and he was a 60, well, that's how he felt about that dog. That dog made him go to a 60. So it's kind of cool because it is a barometer, so it's going to let you know a lot about how he feels about different stuff. The higher you have to go, probably the more you need to be working on those specific things, because he's getting to a point where that maybe it's not healthy how he feels about it if you have to go that high. You see? So if I have a dog that's going up into the 70s over stuff, I'm probably going to center my focus a lot on that and making sure that we can get him maybe to lower those numbers and not feel so intense. And oftentimes how I go about doing that is through long line work, like some of the videos that I sent you. So we want to go up high enough to get the response, But we're trying not to shock him. We're trying to just communicate with him. We're trying to just have this nice, calm level of communication. And I want you to know that when I get a blow off from him, you know, sometimes I instruct people to go up one at a time. But with this guy, I go black S, which we'll go over tomorrow, straight to my red S, which is a boost button. If he doesn't listen to the boost, I am turning the dial relatively quickly because I know this guy. I know how much pressure he can handle. And I know that the longer it takes for me to get him to listen, the higher the number that goes. The higher the number goes, and the more defiance I get from him. I've seen some serious defiance since I took him off the leash. Really, really trying to get his own way as stoically as he can. And I think the cool thing about the e-collar is that because, you know, so much of Cesar is so composed and stoic, you know, I know you guys see more hyperactivity, and I've seen a little bit more of it since the midweek, and he's gotten more comfortable here. But for the most part, this guy composes himself extremely well, especially for his age. So sometimes it's actually hard to know how intense he feels about stuff because he's so stoic. So I think you're going to like the e-collar because it's actually going to cut through, you know, his stoicism and kind of let you know just exactly how he feels in that moment. You know, how intense is he? How stubborn is he being? How much does he desire that instead of listening to me? So it's going to be kind of a good scale for you to assess him at home and maybe what you even need to center your focus on because he's struggling listening the most in maybe certain situations. So I'm going to go ahead and do some more work. So I'm kind of starting to see a little head flinch. I'm actually going all the way down. Right now I'm at a 5. Just to kind of give you an idea of how I fluctuate, I'm explaining how I go up, but I also need to explain why I go down. So, when I do sits in place, dogs oftentimes calm down tremendously. So I will go down. If I'm at a 40 after a recall, I go down pretty quickly for the sit. Because there's usually, once they've committed to me, typically they've calmed down. If they haven't, I'll go back up. So I'm constantly fluctuating my numbers. If I release them from a sit or from a place board, I usually go back down to lower numbers because they're not as intense. After I've worked him for a while, his numbers go down. Cesar we started this session videoing, so you saw him right out his crate. This is him right out of his crate. So he's always harder the first 5 minutes of every session. Always, every session. Come. It's because he's trying to freaking pull his weight and see what he can get away with, you know? I'm worked up. I've had a 2-hour nap. Come. Good. Please. Sit. Good. I'm worked up. I've had a 2-hour nap in my crate. I'm a high-energy German Shepherd. And I'm sit. And I want to use this extra energy to, you know, see what I can get away with. It was always hardest at the beginning. A lot of people will go, well, you know, I just think at the beginning, He just needs to get his energy out and do the zoomies. You can do whatever you want. I'm just here for information. But every time a dog does the zoomies, I call them out of it because it's literally them losing their minds. There's nothing beneficial about it. It means that they're going crazy. There's nothing productive about it. It's even hurt on their body. Sit. Dogs are amazing animals in that even the higher energy ones, if you just burn the mental energy, they'll be calm. But if you focus entirely on draining physical energy, you're actually going to build stamina. And I'm not trying to build stamina, I'm trying to build calm into a dog, because at the end of the day, I'm going to be able to take him on a 10-mile hike, whether he's calm or not. These dogs can go physically forever. You're never going to physically wear a dog out. But if you mentally wear them out and you teach them how to be calm, then there's no requirement for a 10-mile hike to calm him down. You can calm him down on the days where you're busy, and you can still maintain a certain level of sanity inside of him. Or you could turn around and take him on a 10-mile hike, and you're going to see the same dog regardless. So this is why I start with that crate ritual and the door that I sent you. I send him out to go potty, and then we get right to work. Is because I'm not saying right now at phase 1 of training, I'm not going to say, okay, Cesar, go be free and do whatever you want. That's how he was before the board and train. That's actually one of the main reasons why he's selective and is listening. He gets too much freedom to make too many of his own choices. So we have to basically flip the scale and say, okay, Cesar, I need you to actually listen to me all the time. You're always going to be under command. We're always going to be training. Until I see that you know how to relax, you come when called every single time, you quit testing me, you quit trying to push the boundaries constantly. And then when I see that, you've earned freedom. And then once you've earned freedom, we're still going to do a lot of training, because I don't want the freedom to come so fast and so quick that now you think, oh, well, that was a really stark contrast. I went from training to freedom overnight. That's too much freedom. I'm going to start going back to the way it was, because that's what's going to happen. So first, it's really, really rigid. Lot of micromanagement. It's a pain in the ass. Everyone hates it. Better for the dog. Then it's slow integration of freedom. And honestly, for the rest of his life, it's probably going to be a mixture of both, because this dog is going to take advantage of you if he has too much freedom. He's too strong of a dog. He's too domineering. This guy really is truly an alpha. So if you just kind of let him be free all the time and let him kind of do whatever he wants, that's going to backfire on you. This guy needs a human who's willing to lead him, for the rest of his life. That's it. So my dog, I know you asked me, what do you do with your dog? Well, I have 5, so I should say my dogs. But I'm actually going to use my boy Atlas as an example, because Atlas and Cesar are very similar. Although Cesar's a stronger dog than Atlas, Atlas is a very strong dog too. They're about the same size. They have similar drives. The only difference is Atlas is a rescue that came from a shitty situation, and he was born into your home as a puppy. So Atlas was under a strict crate work regimen for about 3 months. He did not see any freedom in that time. He was way worse than Cesar, way worse. Terrible behavioral issues. Then I slowly started to integrate freedom, and I mean still lots of work with a little bit of freedom. Quiet. And then I gradually built on that. What it looks like today is he gets a crate nap in the afternoon, and he's in his crate at night. He's also in his crate when I'm gone. I'm going to recommend that for Cesar. But that's after the phase 1 of training. This is not when he comes home. This is later. He's not allowed to wander around my house. He's not allowed to guard. But when he's in my house, he's not on place. I'm not forcing him into a position. He can't go into the kitchen, and he can't guard. Those are the two big rules. But he can change beds. He can sniff around the living room. I'm not so rigid that I'm like, don't move an inch, right? When he's in the yard, he's not on place, he's free. He plays with the other dogs. He's out here for several hours a day. Always supervised. Dogs make stupid decisions when they're unsupervised. I don't have control of what habits they create when they're unsupervised. So the last thing I'm going to do is leave them unsupervised because I don't want them to undo my training, which is exactly what they will do with unsupervised freedoms. So he's free, he's out here for hours, he gets to play, he's not constantly under a structured, rigid schedule, but we have rules. No guarding. Appropriate play. When I say place, you still need to stay there. We don't bark at things. We don't run at people that come into the yard. So, still lots of rules, right? Always rules, boundaries, limitations. That's a lifestyle. That's healthy for them, and they need it. On walks, when he's on a leash, you got to stay with me, buddy. We're not pulling. We're not going to investigate the dog. We're not running after the chicken. Heel means heel. It's loose leash. That's it. That's the rule. He gets 5 miles of walking a day. I'd say that's a pretty lucky dog. We go hiking. I have a mixture of freedom, go sniff, go investigate. But when I say here, you stay in a here until I release you. You don't run at people, dogs. We're not chasing after lizards and squirrels, right? So everything I do with him revolves around rules, boundaries, limitations. He's got lots of freedoms. Lots of freedoms. He's free in the house. He's free in the yard. He's lots of freedom on hikes. And all of this is done with the rules, boundaries, limitations, and the structure, and starting with rigid, this is my way or the highway, and then gradually implementing freedoms has created a dog that I can pretty much reliably take anywhere and have the confidence in knowing that he's going to listen to me, he's going to comply to me, and he's going to follow my rules. So, and it's a team thing. I'm not mad at him. I don't have to correct him. I'm not frustrated with him. He doesn't think he's a bad boy. This is all with happiness. You know, there's spunk behind it. And my level of communication can be a whisper. So that kind of tells you something about the relationship that he and I have, you know? But since you guys don't have necessarily a really solid foundation for him, and he has selectively chosen when he's going to come when called, selectively chosen when he's going to do certain things inside the house, you have to go at this situation from a different viewpoint. The first thing I need to teach him is all the things I want him to do without giving him the freedoms to be selective. And once you do that, he's going to get more trained much faster. So when you implement the freedom, you're not going to see nearly as much of the bullheadedness and the selectiveness. And it's going to start doing it more willingly and with more ease. So that's kind of my pep talk and his go home tomorrow, just to prepare you for what you're going to be in for, and also what I really do believe is better for him. You know, this guy is very, very independent, and he needs someone who's going to be advocating for him. And he, honestly, all dogs would like a relationship based off respect, you know, where he's listening when he's asked, and then he gets this warmth from his owner for listening instead of being selective and then the owner being mad at him, because that's not a very fun relationship either. So that's my spiel on that. I'm just going to do another round of let's goes and here and recall, and then we're going to wrap this session up. Let's go. I'm back down to a 6. video with restricting his freedoms and just creating a training atmosphere for a while so he's under command and he's listening and we're building a foundation of what you want instead of waiting till he fails and telling him what you don't want. This is why I get so much eye contact. Sit. Sit. I'm building a team. I'm building a relationship. And this is the fastest way you can do it without confusing the dog. I think confusion comes when the freedom comes too soon and there's too much inconsistencies in the house. Hey, sit. Then they start losing their minds. Sit. Let's go. Good job, buddy. Please. So I'm going to wrap this video up. I think I gave you everything you needed to know about the e-collar and some of the stipulations behind it. You know, he's doing really, really well. I should have made a video of one of my first 2 times attempting this because it was a complete shit show. You know, he really, once he felt that leash was off, he really got into this whole juking, I'm not listening, you know, I'm free, good luck trying mentality. This is one of our better off-leash sessions. So I think he's doing really, really well overall, but a lot of what I'm referring to right now is in preparation for you guys to be more prepared for him when he comes home because he is challenging and he is very stoic. See you, dude.